my channel. Today I just wanted to talk about just my celibacy journey and just how my life has changed because I started to be celibate and my mindset has changed. I also just want to talk about like self-love and having boundaries and just how I think about love and just how my mindset has changed regarding relationships and whatnot and just how I date. So I guess I just want to start by saying just a year ago I decided to become celibate. And it has been really liberating for me. I guess I'll start by just sharing that like I lost my virginity as a teenager, late teen, and that was my first experience with another person or with having an intimacy level with another person. One thing that celibacy has taught me, or made me consider, is what consent really is. I don't think I really wanted to have sex the first time I did, but rather I was more coerced into it, and that wasn't normal. And I'm starting with this because it shaped a lot of my sexual experiences going forward. At that point, I was attached to that person, and because he was my first, that made me like super attached to him. But I began to learn more about myself around 18 or 19, because that's when I started going to college, and I guess that's when I started having like a hoe phase, I guess you could say. And I was engaging in a lot of like casual hookups, and that took me through and led me to a lot of different emotions. Some levels I felt free and liberated because of the choice to engage in it, but other times I felt like powerless or empty afterwards, and very like emotional, because at times those situations lacked consent, or I was just doing it for the wrong reasons. Thinking now, like I asked myself, what was sex doing for me at that time, and what does it do for women, or what do women get from sex? And I just started thinking, I think sex can give you some sort of validation amongst men or women or just whoever you're having sex with. It gives you access to relationship at times, or it can give you a family because it can result in a family. And it can give you pleasure and intimacy and just closeness with somebody you love or somebody you don't love. I think it was also, for me, like entering the adult world in a way. I was on my own finally in college, and I didn't have my parents around, and I wanted to utilize that freedom. However, it did start like a pattern for me of not thinking or having discernment on what I really wanted. And, at 20 years old, I had my first son, and that was resulted from a casual hookup. And that is what started like a shift for me a little, in how I thought about sex and just relationship. I was a new mom, a single mom with no help from his dad. And so at this point, a lot of people that I knew, classmates and things like that, they were starting to get married and have kids of their own. And then so in my head, I'm thinking like, I want that, having a relationship will to me in my head at that time, it was like, okay, subconsciously sex equals a family, and family equals relationship, and relationship equals happiness, and happiness is completion because that's what you should want out of life. And I didn't have that completion. And I think I thought that I could get it from like a guy or an old flame because I couldn't get it from my son's dad. And something about being in a relationship felt like completion. And for me to get that, I would allow people to have access to my body who didn't deserve it, or I wouldn't make the right choices to who could have the access to my body, because I thought that was the driving force on what I needed to get a relationship. Or that's just something you have to do to get a relationship, or that's just part of being in a relationship and courtship. But really, that's not true. Having a child changed what I'm willing to risk to gain relationship, or the idea of completion in my head. So I kept trying to date, but it wasn't working out for me. Having another child was a risk I wasn't willing to take, and I'm still not willing to take, because I do love my son, but I know what I can handle. And I had a pregnancy scare, and I was like, no, this is not going to be me. Like, this is not going to be my story, not again. So that's when I decided to become celibate. And being celibate for a year now has taught me a lot. And it taught me that I can find liberation beyond what my body is capable of. It taught me that I can show appreciation of my body first. And that my body, it belongs to me, and I need to do what I need to do to keep it safe and protect it. And it's not say what happens to it. And I've had feelings about my body since a child. And like when I was a very young girl, I've gone through so many different feelings and emotions about my body. And I think starting off, it was just becoming a teenager and adolescent and stuff. It was a lot of shame because I was bigger. I didn't really come into my curves when I was maybe in middle school, or until I was about 13 and hit puberty. And before then, I was still very chubby, so it was like I felt a lot of shame towards my body. And then once I started getting my curves, and I started to get more affirmed for how I looked, and then I became more proud of it. It was only because I was being affirmed. And then if I wasn't being affirmed, then I would feel insecure, I felt like. And now I'm at a point now where, my weight has fluctuated since I've had, my son, and sometimes I don't always like the way my body looks, but I've accepted the fact that, sometimes I love it. And, I cherish those times where I do love my body, and I only have one body, and I should cherish it no matter what. I'm an artist. I utilize that to admire my body and appreciate it, and turning my body into art. I think that way it forces me to look at it. It forces me to look at every detail of my body, to capture it on media or in a physical form when I'm drawing or when I'm painting. And I think in doing that, I see my body as more of a gift and a piece of art, and that helped me see the value of myself and my body, because I think of it like I wouldn't give my work to someone who doesn't appreciate it, or doesn't want it, or doesn't cherish it, or for free. So why would I give my actual body away for nothing in real life? And I don't want to always equate nothing to money, but nothing can also mean just appreciation or love or effort. And it's like, recently I gave one of my friends one of my paintings, and for free, but it wasn't because I didn't want to charge her or anything like that. It was more because I knew she would appreciate it. I knew she would love it. And to me, if you're my friend or someone I care about, I'm gonna give it to you with no charge, because you see the value in my work beyond material value. And then so I try to relate that to my body. Like, why would I give my body to someone who doesn't really appreciate me or love me, and only want what's on the outside, or want me for how I look? And I think that's helped me shape the way I see myself. Another thing that celibacy has taught me is like the importance of consent, and having boundaries. I think once I decided to be celibate, I gave myself a little goal to achieve, and like I wanted to give myself something to be proud of. And I think that's what celibacy was for me. Like, doing that, giving myself that goal, like, okay, I want to be celibate for a year. It made me kind of like obsessed with it in a way. I guess because I'm a Scorpio, so I have like that obsessive quality about myself. But in this way, it was in a good way, because it's like, okay, I have to make this goal. I have to make it to a year without giving in or compromising my boundaries. And I think that helped me have stricter boundaries, because it's like, okay, I want this goal, I have to meet this goal, so I can't let anything get in the way of it. So at that point, it wasn't really about necessarily staying celibate at that point, but it was more so like, okay, I have to reach that goal. And in doing that, it forced me to be stricter with my boundaries. And I kind of treated it like a game in a way. Like, I gotta meet this goal, and if I achieve it, I'll be proud of myself, and that pushed me to maintain that celibacy. And in doing that, I realized I need to keep these boundaries from here on out. So that's why I guess I'm continuing it. I don't have any intention on breaking it right now, unless, I meet someone that is right for me, or I feel like is worthy of my time or worthy of my body. And have become very picky with who I choose. So, and it also helped me recognize and clock all these like red flags and patterns that I've looked past, usually look past, and just knowing when to walk away sooner than I would have before. And I think also when it comes to boundaries, it's not just having access to my body, it's also having access just to me as a person, like access to my conversation, my life, just things about me, and limiting that and not giving so much of that away right off. So I won't feel so emotionally connected to someone who didn't have good intentions to start with. And that's just walking away as soon as I feel uncomfortable. And that can just look like just saying something inappropriate, or being too forward, or saying just something that doesn't align with my morals or values, or just something that's just stupid. And I just walk away from it immediately and don't look back. Before I was celibate, I didn't do that. Like, I would kind of just like pray, like I would see a red flag and I would just ignore it, like pretend I didn't see it, like because what they present was already just so good, and it's like once they show a little bit of their true colors, it's like, dang, I was so close and I don't want to walk away from this, so I just kind of ignore the red flag. But then it's like, there's no point in doing that, because if you ignore it, it's just going to come back up later. So that's why it's just important for me to just acknowledge it and clock it and just leave early on. And that saves me a lot of heartache and a lot of stress. And I think that's made me feel more liberated than any sex I've ever had, honestly. And I think for me, sex should feel good, whether it's casual or not, just having sex itself, whether it's casual or if it's serious, isn't bad. But I think it's only bad if you're using it to fill a void. And I still struggle maintaining celibacy now, because there is a price you pay when you have boundaries and when you decide to be single. And that's loneliness and kind of like jealousy from seeing others in a relationship. Or just being human and wanting to experience sex, like wanting to have sex just as a human being. But for me, it's like I can't do it anymore if it's not under the right circumstances, if it's not how I want my relationship to be. And it's like right now I'm at a place where it's like I'm not comfortable having casual sex or having sex with someone that I'm not in a relationship with. That's just where I'm at right now. Even though it doesn't always feel good being alone, it doesn't feel good falling back into those same habits and patterns either. And right now it feels really good to be different. It feels really good to change. It feels really good to have a mindset change and have a new outlook on life. That feels good to me, and I'm really proud of myself. Now I think ways I'm going to try to continue to show myself self-love is I want to start like taking dance classes and like moving my body more. I think that will be freeing for me because it will allow me to take up space and look at myself. I think sometimes that's why it's scary to love yourself. Or practice self-love, because not only do other people have to see you, you have to see yourself, and you have to face those flaws and those uncomfortable things that you are running away from, whether it can be on the outside and the inside. Especially for a person like me, like I have always been in the background, sketching in my notebook, in the corner of the classroom while everybody else is raising their hands, answering the questions, and it's like my body is capable of doing more. And I'm finally giving myself permission to not just do more, but to do the most. Like, be unapologetically me. And it's not easy, but that's just true liberation for myself. And I think I'm trying, and seeing myself trying and working through those feelings that come along the way is liberation for me. It's freedom for me. It's self-love for me. And yeah, that's just how I feel about that now. Yeah, those are just some of my thoughts and feelings about where I am romantically and just where I am with myself. So thank you for tuning in. I'm gonna definitely be doing more like relationship discussions and stuff like that. So thank you for watching this video, and happy Valentine's Day.